Guten Abend, good morning, good day, whatever time of day it is. So, reflecting on stuff. I think this is probably a good time of year to reflect on stuff. We've all had a lot of weird things happen through the last few years. And as I said before, you know, I've been kind of quiet about stuff. But I think it's important that we actually look at, what's going on. And what's going on is really kind of weird. But there is this connection that's happening, and I'm seeing it everywhere. It's fascinating. I did a little experiment because I'm living with two rabbits now. And so what I did was, one of them totally chill, come up, sniff your nose, really cool. The other one really scared. So I thought, well, you don't want to force yourself upon another being. That's not right. And so what I did was I just sat. This actually came before the Cat's Eye book. So anyone that knows about what I've spoken about will know what I'm talking about. And so what I did was I just sat there very quietly and I just pictured that particular animal in my mind's eye. And when I did that, I spoke to that animal in my mind's eye. And then the funniest thing happened. He popped right out of the house. He wanted to come and see what was happening. And the connection's been totally different since then. But I've done this, I've experienced this with other people. So it's not first time. But when you make that connection, and what I said to that creature was to not be afraid. And I looked into the spiritual eye, and it worked. I mean, it really works. But you've got to be honest. You've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with the others. And so there's a different relationship has happened with this little rabbit, right? Because he was petrified of me. And when you go and get a rabbit from a shop, so many people have handled that creature and not kindly either. They treat them like commodities, like a piece of meat on the shelf, and that's not fair. Okay, I eat meat, I understand farming, but if you're going to rescue an animal from a shop, and that's what it basically is, you are rescuing an animal from a shop. A fish, doesn't matter. hamster, mouse, rats, and trust me, I'd already booked this, so I was already there. I was involved, and you need to take responsibility for this stuff. So it takes work. And it's like having a child, really, in a sense, and innocence as well. So you need to be innocent. So the innocence comes from being honest. Actually, I wanted to read from the cluster series, but I thought it was really important to just talk about that connection that I had. You know, and you have to give it time. You've really got to give them time because you're bringing them from, and they've been brought from, you know, Holland or Germany or wherever. Trust me, I know about animals and breeds and stuff like that. So I'm well aware that they are not necessarily from this particular country. But so that was a profound moment when I made that connection. Anyway, I think that I need to read the preface of the book that I started on because I did promise this. And for whomever likes to listen, I don't like to hide who I am, so I will always make these things public afterwards because I've got nothing to hide. Pierce Anthony, and I think now is the perfect time to continue with the cluster series because the spirit can travel in many ways. The preface. We have ascertained that the person is an alien creature occupying a human body. The minister of alien spheres said formally. His Curlian field is extremely intense, on the order of 80 times human normal, and its pattern is unlike anything we have on record. We believe he is what he claims to be, an envoy from the non-soul sphere. The ministers of the Imperial Earth Council com- complate, com- contemplated the subject. They studied him, or her, who knows. There was little to distinguish the alien. He was male, of normal height, about 30 years old, in good health. There were no telltale emanations from his eyes, extraordinary nuances of expression, or any visible aura. He was just an ordinary man, with a bright tattoo on his right wrist. That tattoo was the mark of a recipient body, mindless, empty, without personality. Even without the Curlian verification, the intelligent animation of this body was all was highly significant. Only a freak accident could have done it, or alien possession, for there was no known way to forge a Curlian imprint, and Sphere's soul lacked the technology to transfer identity from one body to another. The regent of Earth, planet, spoke next. Formally addressing the possessed body, sir, we accept you as such an envoy, and accord you the courtesies of that office. Welcome to Sphere's soul. Please acquaint us with your mission. Now there was an almost tangible tension in the hall. Such visitations had been known only half a dozen times before in all humanity's history, and each had had cataclysmic impacts. One had confirmed the existence of intelligent life, elsewhere in the galaxy and revealed the presence of transfer technology. Another had defined the limits of direct human colonization, 120 light years radius from Sol. So, I have to turn the page. You know, I'm reading from an actual book because I like to do real books. And okay, my hands are not as nimble as they may have been before, but it doesn't mean that my storytelling is less thereof. So, there would be no question of conflict with neighbouring spheres. Polaris, Nath, Canopus, Spica, or giant Sador. Another from neighbour sphere Antares had effect had affected one fundamentally important exchange of technology. Sol had yielded the secret of controlled hydrogen fusion in return for Antares' secret of matter transmission. That had revolutionized the human stellar empire, making rapid communication possible, and had presumably, presumably, presumably done something similar for Antares, starved for safe local power. This could be well this could well be the moment of the century. I am I can't pronounce this. Pnottel. I am Pnottel of Sphere Knif. Knif. I didn't write this book, but it is a great book though, and it does make you laugh sometimes. And this is where Douglas Adams comes in, because when you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's just as convoluted and bizarre, but there's that humor in there. And what I might add is Pierce Anthony, not a humorous writer, mostly, but very deep. I mean, extremely deep writer. Okay, I'm going to try and pronounce this again. I am Pnottel of Sphere Knif, the alien said. We are about 5,000 of your light years in toward the center of the galaxy. Our two spheres have not before had direct contact. The council minister nodded, like old gits tend to do from a council. Oh, yes, yes, yes. They had only vague knowledge of the interior spheres, most of whose stars of origin were not visible from Earth. But it was certain that many of them were highly advanced. I mean, look, this is about escapism. We don't know what the shape of anything is. All right, our bodies. We know the shape of our bodies and all the creatures we interact with, right? From the tiniest to the biggest, if you dare to swim with them and fly with them. So, as old council members do, they nodded their heads. But it was certain that many of them were highly advanced. In fact, Sol was a very opening, Sol was a very new, very minor sphere, a galactic backwater, only now opening relations with civilized contemporaries. Some spheres had endured for thousands of years and achieved radii of many hundreds of light years, while Sol had achieved its full size only a century before. We place your locale, the regent said. Please continue, envoy of Knif. I am embodied here to enlist the cooperation of the sphere's soul in a mutual crisis of galactic proportion. Well, aren't we in that right now? We are in a mutual crisis of galactic proportion. You know what I call them? They are the Borg. So, henceforth, I ask you at this moment to ascertain which individuals of your sapient species are suitable for identity pattern transfer. Now, this was written quite a while ago, right? Quite a while ago. In fact, was it? Where's the blooming date? Because these people, I mean, right, this was in the 70s, so 77, and the reprints were like obviously through to the mid 80s and stuff. But they were talking about some real serious stuff, and they're mucking about with this now. The reason that this had a profound effect on me is because I knew this shit was coming, right? I knew that we would encounter people like Elon Musk and swill the bottom of the barrel Gates, you know, and freaking Anal Schwab and all these really weird people like the WEF and the WHO and all these acronyms, shall we say. We should really pay attention to stuff like that. Place your locale, the regent said. Please continue, envoy of Knif. So, so he wants some cooperation of the sphere of Sol, and there is a mutual galactic crisis going on of great proportion. So he says, I ask you at this moment to ascertain the individuals of your sapient species that are suitable for identity pattern transfer. Oh, that's not necessary, the Ministry of Alien Spheres said. We maintain continuous survey. After the difficulty the first envoy had in making contact with our government 500 years ago. That's not the first. Oh, can't say this guy's name. Pnotil said dryly. The first we recognise, the regent said, flushing. His, his historical research had revealed the probability of several prior attempts at transfer contact. All had failed because earlier cultures had preferred not to believe in the possibility of alien visitation or possession. What chances had been squandered by that ignorance? Well, we felt we could not afford to risk any further such embarrassment, the Minister of Alien Spheres continued. So we maintained a number of potential transfer host bodies, such as the one you now occupy, and we have every Curlian field record. Oh, sorry, on record, even. He paused. Unfortunately, the technique of the transfer itself has eluded them. So, isn't that funny? It's like, well, no, we can't go back to the moon because we lost the technology to go back to. Bullshit. There it is again. See? They do it over and over again. It's not just in stories. They put it in the news, the snooze. I like to call it the snooze because it's not new, is it? It's old. So we should call it the snooze because it's old. Lost my spot. We felt we could not afford to risk another further such embarrassment. Anyway, so he paused. Unfortunately, the technique of transfer itself has eluded us. We cannot transfer the mind of an individual of our species into another body. He made a small gesture of apology, as though this was a minor matter. We just don't have the know-how. Not all turned on. He turned on him politely. With an uncanny glance. We grant it to you, the alien said. It was as though a stun bomb had detonated in their midst. There was no pretense of unconcern. The secret of the galaxy, the Minister of Alien Spheres exclaimed. The Regent held up one hand. We cannot conceal our interest, he said, but such information is extremely valuable. We must know what you require in return before we make any commitment. Oh, what price? The Minister of Technology rasped, almost drooling in his eagerness and apprehension. That sobered the others. All eyes returned to the envoy. Surely the secret of the galaxy would exact the ransom of the millennium? No price, Pnotul said evenly. We wish you to have this capability. Now, there was one suspicion. Why? The regent asked. Our entire galaxy is in imminent danger unless we unify the spheres and utilize our maximum capabilities. Doesn't that sound familiar? Maximum capabilities. All of us may be destroyed. Well, so here's the thing. This is what I find fantastical about these writings, is that we know our spirit is endless, eternal, it goes on, you know. Eternity is just a little word. It doesn't really describe what our spirit is. But so Pierce Anthony wrote about, because that's what these books are about. Traveling, it goes way beyond, but it's traveling with your spirit and having a recipient body when you arrive at another world that's waiting there for you, because our spirit is not our body. Plain and simple. I know this, and the only reason why I read about this stuff in these books is because I've been there. I've been out of my body, looked at my body, known that I am not that body. This is actually a business, I have a feeling, that what they're writing about, it doesn't truly address the spiritual aspect of who we are, because we're way more than just, this physical thing that we're experiencing. And another thing I want to address is the fact that the Curlian field is our aura. And the guy that developed it, and I can't remember maybe it was Curlian, that was his name. He developed photography where you could actually photograph your auric field. I think it's really important that we realize our potential, on a daily basis, really. But anyway, so where was I? I've lost my spot now. Isn't that good? Silence is not good, is it? No. So, they continue. We place your locale, the regent said. Please continue, envoy of Nif. I am embodied here to enlist the cooperation of the sphere soul. Okay? So they don't have the know-how to actually do the spirit, because it's your spirit that they're transferring into another body in another world. So if you come from a world where you walk on the land, you breathe air, your spirit will travel in I might add, a physical vehicle in this story. And when it arrives, it will go into a physical body on that world, which might live like a hippopotamus, like in a bog, which is a kind of a, you don't breathe air. So you live in this, like, you're living in a body that doesn't come up for air. It's so weird. It's really cool though. So, Pnottel turned on the director like a stun bomb, and he detonated in their midst. There was no pretense of unconcern. The secret of the galaxy, the Minister of Alien Spheres exclaimed. We cannot conceal our interest, he said, but such information is extremely valuable. We must know what you require in return. There is no price. He says, what is the price? Knottel said, there is no price. We wish to have this, we wish for you to have this capability. Now, when you look at some of the strange technologies that we've been encountering, it does kind of make you ponder whether they're actually having these kind of conversations with folk from wherever. Interdimensional, other spheres, bigger world, who knows? Now, there was open, hang on, no price. We wish you to have this capability. Now, there was open suspicion. Why? The regent asked. Our entire galaxy is in imminent danger unless we unify the spheres and utilize our maximum capabilities. All of us may be destroyed. We have no other way to form a galactic coalition. Oh, forgive us for our cynicism, the regent said grimly. We have a fable about Greeks bearing gifts. This means that we do not trust seemingly unmotivated Lagresse, and we are not likely to react to nebulous, undocumented threats. So this is where ignorance comes in, where we are shy to and we should be. We should not let them through the door. We should meet them elsewhere. This is important. So he says, and why? The Minister for Alien Spheres demanded. Sphere Sador has a radius of almost 500 light years, a volume of controlled space 125 times as great as ours. They are the obvious candidate for your coalition. Such cynicism is a survival trait, Knottel said. We are pleased to find it in you, but something in his tone suggested that he was not delighted. I shall satisfy you on three scores: the practical, the technological, and the intellectual. First, why not Sador, or Mintaka, or any of the other larger spheres of this galactic segment? Because well, because though well established, these spheres are decadent. Their controlling species no longer possess the initiative to tackle a problem of galactic scope, and your other neighbours have not had the foresight to arrange the transfer host as you have. We have therefore contacted the most capable sphere in this region, and that is Sol. The council minister nodded, pleased at the unsubtle flattery. Technology. I shall simply confer with your scientists indefinitely following the meeting and will convey to them the details of the transfer mechanism. After all, Nuttall paused to smile gravely. If you do not achieve this capability in short order, I shall lose my own identity. I shall be the first transfer you make, since I cannot otherwise return to my sphere. So, what he's saying is that when he actually has gone there, if he doesn't return in time, his own body will not receive his spirit back. Think about that, folks. So, I'm going to finish on page 10 because that makes the most sense. And I might read more before the new year, but I'm not going to do that right now. I need to have some lifetime, real time. So, happy Hogmanay and all that stuff. Great days ahead. And if you care to listen, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you all. In Lakesh.